Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on the beautiful May 29th, 2019. Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, just been chilling down here all day waiting on this puck to drop tonight in Boston. Charlton is in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, well, Game 2 is always good, especially if you're St. Louis. There's nowhere to go but up. Everybody's getting ready for the NBA Finals to tip off. We can really call this the World Championship. When they say we're world champions, it'll be nice to have that with the USA and Canada. A lot of good things going on in the sports universe. Baseball. A lot of the people that think that major league teams can only succeed in big markets. The A's had their 10-game winning streak snapped, but they got the 10 in a row. You can't say that about other teams in the league that have bigger markets. It's all fair in love and war. I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So a lot of good things going on in the sports universe, but I want to just take one more time because you opened my mind to it, Big C. And ironically, there's something called the reticular activating system. You can go out and buy a car, and when you're driving that car, you notice more cars that look just like the one you just bought, whether it's an Escalade or whatever it happens to be. And when you mention that number, that crisis hotline, it's for anyone and also includes military veterans. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. You can also text the crisis hotline at 838-255. That's 838-255. So we hope that people can become active and making sure that our servicemen and women are getting the help long after the battle's been over, because the battle never ends for them. Big C, your thoughts?
The battle never ends, Charlton, and you know that no one can ever do enough for our service members and our veterans in this country, Charlton. Yep. Everyone owes them the ultimate debt of gratitude. And anything that you can do as far as extending a hand, an olive branch, any type of help. And that number, Charlton, that you just read off, so many people are not aware that there is help out there for our veterans in this country, Charlton.
Yeah.
And as much as we can do as far as delivering a message to people that may be listening worldwide, that you can text, that you can call that number toll free.
Yep.
Doesn't cost you a dime to help someone out, Charlton. If you see a veteran in need, or you know a veteran in need, don't hesitate at any point of making that call to the crisis hotline. Someone may come there and help that veteran immediately, Charlton, but at least they know that this person is in need and that someone cares.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's so powerful. And when you think about how powerful it is, it's amazing how, we live in a fast-track society, and we're in the information age now where everything is at the palm of your hand. Remember back in the day when people wanted to reach out to someone? You'd pick up that pencil or that ink pen, find a piece of paper or a card, write a letter, and then put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it, and then it would be sent across the country or wherever it was sent by the United States Postal Service. Well, people don't write letters as much now because it's in the palm of our hand. It's almost like we talked about the movie Aladdin and the movie, I Dream of Jeannie, the TV series way back in the day with Larry Hagman, and there were so many things that we think about then that we do now. The movie Star Trek, we talked about that. Beam Me Up, Scotty. That little tricorder, they held it in the palm of their hand. And we're doing that now. So it's easy to save a life today because in the palm of your hand, you don't need the pen anymore. You don't need the piece of paper. But you can open your cell phone. You can dial 800-273-8255. Or you can text the crisis hotline at 838-255. I love doing that PSA because I know if we could save one person a day, then that's something. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, unfortunately in this country, 20 veterans a day commit suicide because they don't feel that there's help out there.
Yeah.
People have turned their back. The country has turned their back on them. But if that number every day, Charlton, that we can utilize it, help save a veteran, help direct a veteran to, into intervention, Charlton.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't do more than that. So, I mean, it's the least that we can do.
Yeah.
As a broadcast group, Charlton, to let our listeners know, please lend a hand to a veteran. There's 19 million of them in America.
Yeah, there's a lot. So saying our thoughts and prayers are with you, that's like writing the letter. That's like finding the stamp. And that's like going to the post office and trying to find a way to reach out to someone. All you got to do now is open your hand with that phone. Like Thanos in the Avengers, he can snap his fingers and change things. Well, you can pick up your hand and change things too. So we hope that resonates well throughout the universe for all people who follow sports and information. Big C, I know that we love sports. I know that we love so much that's going on in this great world. But I would tell you, many of my sports friends, to this day, I know we're going to talk some more about the hockey and some basketball and some baseball. But I was listening and doing some research today. And then over comes this TV screen. I was at a dealership today. And it said, breaking news. Mueller, if we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. It could be spun either way. I know Mueller's going to resign. He wasn't clear on a lot of things, but what he was clear on is that if he could have cleared the president, he would have. So now it goes back into the Democrats and the Republicans fighting. But this even stopped the sports shows, the smart sports shows were talking about it because it affects them. Some of the guys that don't read, they just kept on talking about what LeBron James is going to do and what Magic Johnson is going to do and where will Kevin Durant go. This Mueller thing, I just hope that we can go forward as a country. But this is for powers greater than us, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Mueller report clearly stated from the time that it came out, and the mandate that was laid out for the Mueller report, Charlton, is that they could not indict a sitting president. That is the rule of law of the Constitution. So Mueller's hands were tied. He could never indict the president, which a lot of people who were unintelligent thought that that's what this report was all about.
Yeah.
This report was about whether he could clear the president. He could not clear the president, and he stated that clearly, is that there were evidence there that did not allow him to clear the president, but he could not indict the president according to the rule of law, so they could never go down that path, even though majority of Americans thought that's where it was headed. It was never headed that way. He was putting down a blueprint for Congress to follow. That's what his job was. Congress is the ultimate power when it comes to the presidency.
Yeah.
He laid down the rule and the blueprint for them. It's up to them whether they choose to follow the rule of law, Charlton, or does Congress want to obstruct justice?
Well,
it's already been said that the president has done it. Now does Congress want to do that?
Yeah, and Mueller decides he has enough money. He's gonna step aside and do things that maybe he wants to do. Like Thanos, he's gonna go back to the farm and relax and grow some vegetables, but realize that we still have some Russian influence. And for people who don't believe that, maybe they don't even care, because it's going to also affect the election in 2020. We hope that Nancy Pelosi and all the people that care about the country will work together in a bipartisan way, but we know that's probably not possible. But we'll see how things pan out with that, Big C. One thing I do want to ask you, because I like to read too, and I like to Google for information. Now, I'm wondering, when POTUS was saying to the first African-American president, United States President Obama, even though I believe there was one before him, the original 13 colonies. I have to Google that to make sure, but I know I read it. But he was asking President Obama to show his birth certificate. Remember that back in the day? He kept saying, I want to see proof, I want to see proof. Could you believe that Obama has proven the birth certificate, and POTUS still hasn't paid his taxes? And CNN did a special just the other day, and it talked about the corruption with the Trump family. Now, irrespective of if Democrat or Republican, how many people would have let President Obama get by with so much garbage against him, and they were trying to find out if the man was really an American-born citizen, and if some people don't know that Hawaii is part of the United States. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everybody in politics knew that President Obama was an American-born citizen. This was a hoax that was built up by a private citizen to start his campaign for presidency, Charlton. And if you could get enough of the Yahoo good old boys
it worked.
believing in something that wasn't true, that's how he became president, Charlton. But, falsehoods have always been laid out there in politics, narratives that people who are uneducated and uninformed will believe. As many people were saying, they were saying that President Obama was a Muslim, that he wasn't born in America. The minute that lie started running, the people who don't read believed it.
Yeah.
And that was enough for them because somebody had told them that.
Yeah.
They didn't care to read or, they weren't educated enough to understand the difference of being an American politician.
Yeah.
That you had to be an American citizen. And especially to run for president, you had to be born in this country. But, that's how our society is today, Charlton, and the separation that we have of beliefs and non-beliefs and falsehoods. That's what keeps this country divided.
Yeah.
That when you can believe a lie and the truth means nothing to you, this is the reason why we have separation of powers in this country.
Yeah, that's very true. And I want to add that in. I want to just touch on this one more time because I know Magic Johnson has been all over the news last couple of days and even weeks since his announcement to step down from his involvement with the LA Lakers. And there were people that were saying, and some Northern California radio stations, that Magic just didn't want to do hard work, that he was lazy. That's the same garbage that they were saying about President Obama. That's been said about a number of African-American men, throughout this country for years, many decades. And unfortunately, many men don't even fight back. They just lay there and act like, well, we don't want to say the right thing. We don't want to cause any problems at the wrong time. You got to always fight back. I want to just ask you, when you see how Magic Johnson, I heard that he was saying that he's worth nearly $500 million. You don't get that by being lazy. But it's that same thing that, and see, people say sports and politics don't mix, but the same garbage that POTUS used to try to get ignorant people who don't read to dislike Obama or not trust Muslims, whatever it is to find that ism, that xenophobia in some people. And it works because a lot of people are ignorant, Big C. But it's the same garbage that worked for the enmity started against President Obama. And Mitch McConnell said we're going to make him a one-term president, which Mitch was wrong. It's the same thing to use against Magic Johnson, where they're lazy, they're shiftless, they don't want to work hard. And affirmative actions. Mainstream has always used those dog whistles to justify their xenophobia. They're not born out of the womb that way, but it's a learned behavior, Big C. So I think the same thing that POTUS did to President Obama, mainstream tried to do it to Magic Johnson, making him defend something, and they were not in the room, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to look at it from Magic's perspective. Let me give you a Southern analogy on it.
Yeah.
You don't get into a urinating contest with a skunk, okay? You just don't. You're not going to win that way. And so that's the road that Magic took.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I respond to ignorance? It makes me ignorant to respond to it.
Yeah.
Magic, the plus about Magic is that the media is continuously talking about it.
Yeah.
He's not going home talking about the media.
No.
The media is obsessed with Magic. Magic pulled something on the media that they did not appreciate.
Yeah.
As they said, he did not give them a heads up.
And they called him lazy.
Didn't let them know whether it was okay or not that he resigned from the Lakers.
Yeah.
He just tells them that walking down the corridor one day.
Yeah.
That's what he did. So they had no opportunity to prepare their narratives, to sit up and do their little skits on television,
and break the
to
news.
Talk about Magic, to put together a highlight reel. It was like Magic just hit us blindsided. He came out of the blue with this.
Yeah.
We weren't prepared.
Yep.
So we weren't able to write a narrative as a media. That's their problem, Charlton. They need to be able to come out and break the news, not Magic. Magic didn't have the right to come out and tell people what his thoughts were.
Yeah.
Without getting the okay from mainstream media. That was the problem with Magic's resignation from the Lakers. Anybody else leaves the team, Charlton, they don't see anything. When you see a coach get fired, they don't come up and say, well, the coach didn't come give us a narrative,
right,
so that we could write it because he was going to get fired. He didn't let us have the heads up before the owner told him that he was going to get fired. So why is it that when Magic walks away and does things the Frank Sinatra way, I did it my way, that the media is so appalled from that?
Yeah.
And here's a black man that's not struggling financially, socially, in any kind of way. He's had success with the Dodgers, 2 successive World Series. He's had no problems with that professional organization that he's in.
Right.
But when you look at him with the Dodgers, Charlton, you're not hearing dysfunctionality in that organization. You're not hearing people tugging at a rope saying, I got more in my hand than what you have in your hand.
Yeah.
You know, the people that are making the decisions with the Dodgers are low-key and behind the scenes.
Yep.
Everybody in the Lakers wanted to be in the spotlight, whether it was the owner, whether it was the GM, whether it was the president. Everybody wanted to say that my stick is bigger than yours. That's what they all want to say.
Yeah.
I can dribble my balls harder than you can.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing. And so when Magic said, I don't need to be a part of the circus, I can go home and relax.
Yeah.
That's what people don't like, is that he wrote the narrative.
Yeah, he wrote the narrative, and that he did it his way, the great Frank Sinatra. So it's important that people in power, you got to work hard to get there. Nothing's given to you in any way. Speaking of power, in Boston, Beantown, them good old boys, they're running it for NHL. They're already underway. We don't give out scores. But the Bruins are already up 1-0 over the Blues. Talking about singing the blues, I would hope for the sake of NHL that the Blues could at least win 2 games in this series. But if they go down tonight, chances are it won't happen. I know people talk about a sweep. Boston started slow, as you said they would in Game 1. Them good old boys got their second win, and they outscored the Blues 4-0. And we know Rask is arguably the best goalie that we've seen in many, many moons. In fact, some people say he's the best goalie in the universe for the Boston Bruins. Give me your thoughts on St. Louis. If they get a win tonight, we might face 6 games. But if not, they may have to get out the brooms in St. Louis. Your thoughts, Big C?
They're going to have to get a win tonight, Charlton, to stay in this series. When you think about Tuscan Rask, the goalie for the Bruins, he only faced 18 shots in Game 1. That's an easy night for a goalie in the NHL. I mean, you need to face upwards of 30 shots, especially in the finals. You got to take a shot anytime that you can.
Yeah.
But the physicality of the Boston Bruins in Game 1, Charlton, caught the Blues off guard. I don't think that they were prepared for that. They thought that the team would stay sluggish.
Yeah.
They were sluggish for 15 minutes. That was about it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they realized that they were in a hockey match, Charlton, and they took it out on the Blues. The Blues were just not ready for it.
Yeah.
They were stronger because they were more rested. And that's what they're going to continue, being physical in this series. And when you have St. Louis trying to retaliate, Charlton, they found themselves in the penalty box. And Boston was on multiple power plays. And you think about Boston, Charlton, this is their 3rd trip to the Stanley Cup this decade. I mean, we're only 9 years in. We're not even 10 years in. This decade, this is their 3rd trip to the Stanley Cup. So the people of Boston are just spoiled in every kind of way, as you think. I mean, they look at the rest of America and laugh.
Yeah.
And they can say losers to everybody.
Yeah, they really can.
Other than in the NBA, but they've been to the finals, in the past decade.
Yeah.
This is a city that as a fan, you have to be considered the mecca of sports.
Yeah.
When you look at it. I mean, you're just dominant in football, basketball, baseball, Charlton. You do it all. Your fans get the best. And you got to praise the athletes that play in a city like that, Charlton, because they're competing against the other sports. They don't want to be in last. Nope. And so you give it thanks to all the great professional athletes in the city of Boston, Charlton, for what they provide for their fans.
And it doesn't help the Blues that their winger, Robert Thomas, is out of Game 2 in the Stanley Cup Finals. He was hit by the Boston Bruins defenseman, Torrey Krug, in Monday's series opener. I thought it was a cheap shot, but that's part of what they do in the world of hockey. I didn't think that was too cool, but it happens. So if you're already down, 1-0, and you're St. Louis, there's always that momentum that a team can get when they go back home. I just don't know how likely that is if you're a team like St. Louis. I wish them well, Big C. We know that's important. I want to get on a thought, though, because in the world of the NBA, we know we have the NBA Finals. It starts tomorrow in Toronto, beautiful city. I love how we have 2 great areas of the world with Toronto, Canada, and the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area. The beautiful buildings nestled on the water, the skyscrapers, the great sports teams, the blending of cultures. We have a continent where healthcare is free, another where you got to have some type of healthcare to get seen, but we'll see how it comes together. But before we even get on that, there's some talk coming out of Texas that maybe D'Antoni shouldn't be the guy to lead James Harden in the Houston Rockets. Notice I said James Harden in the Houston Rockets because according to the owner, everybody's up for grabs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the wonderful thing about the NBA, it's almost like the finals don't matter to the media. There has been so much talk about teams that are not participating and players that are not participating in the finals or even the Eastern and Western Conference final, Charlton, got more attention than the games did. And so, as you always want to build these narratives in the media about who's in, who's out,
right.
And the owners, the alleged comment from the owner saying that everybody's in play to be traded.
Yeah.
How can you make that statement in the NBA? I mean, even the reporters who are talking about that, there's a thing called salary cap implications, okay?
Yep.
Period. You can't make moves if they don't fit financially. That's how professional sports is structured.
Yeah.
There's always talk about movement of players and, this player could be going here, this player could be going there. It's about financial consideration.
Yep.
And when you think about the contract that James Harden had, he's going to make in the last 2 years of his contract, they're going to be $44 and $47 million each.
I'll take it.
The last 2 years of his contract, he's going to make almost $95 million in the last 2 years of his contract.
$95 million?
Chris Paul still has $121 million rather, left on the 3 years of his contract.
Yes.
So he's not going anywhere in a hurry. If Chris Paul goes somewhere, it has to be a 50-50 deal. The Rockets are going to have to eat half of the contract if Chris Paul is moved to another team.
Yeah.
Clint Capella was just signed, Charlton.
Yep.
He has 4 years left on the deal. He just played the first year of a 5-year deal. And he's the least expensive of all those guys, and he has about $115 million left over the next 4 years. So when you talk about everybody's in play to be moved,
yeah.
I mean, you got to look at where you were. You were against the Warriors. Potentially still the NBA champs after this series is over against Toronto.
Yep.
And how many teams have lost to the Warriors over the last 5 years? You can't get disgruntled as an owner and say, okay, I'm going to move everybody out of here because we can't beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Dan Gilbert, who's recovering in the hospital from a stroke, the Cleveland owner.
Yeah.
He never moved all of Cleveland because they could not beat the Warriors.
That's true.
So as you look at that, Pat Riley, he hung with the Miami Heat until they were able to win a championship after assembling that great host of talent down there.
Yes.
So when teams are talking about, well, we're going to move off of somebody because they can't beat the NBA champs, Charlton, how asinine that the media even makes that statement.
Well, maybe they can't get a pass into Canada. Maybe they can't get through customs, Big C. A lot of them boys, you may have a bad record, can't get through. So let's think about the NBA Finals. It really is the World Championship Series. You have the Golden State Warriors, they're 57-25. Toronto Raptors 58-24. Golden State averages 118 points a game regular season. Toronto 114. If you think about Golden State, the Splash Brothers, they shoot about 40% from three. Toronto's not that far behind. They shoot about 37% for three. If there's anything that can change the tide in this game, Kawhi Leonard can't take down the Splash Brothers. I think the only thing that could hurt Golden State is DeMarcus Cousins coming in and trying to make room for him and slowing down the speed of the Splash Brothers. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, I'm not sure that DeMarcus Cousins will be activated for Game 1 of this series, Charlton. There's a lot of hoopla talk from the media. But the Golden State Warriors, you got to look, Charlton, they won 6 consecutive games with the lineup that they have. And it's hard to break up continuity when you look at it in whole. DeMarcus Cousins was brought in so slowly after the new year when he was inserted into the lineup, Charlton. And he still was never the go-to guy in the lineup.
Yeah.
You don't have the problem with Toronto that you would have had with Milwaukee, where you had a mismatch problem in the middle with the big guys.
Right.
You can put Bogert on Gasol. They're similar type players, Charlton. Neither one of them are fast. Both of them going to sit out on the arc.
Yeah.
So there's not a mismatch problem. Matter of fact, if you don't play Bogert, then Toronto has to take Gasol out of the lineup because he can't play anybody on the Warriors defensively.
Yeah.
So you'll say Siakam and Ibaka playing the bigs for Toronto, and they may even take Ibaka out because he may not be able to keep up speed-wise.
Yeah.
But when you look at what got you to this point to be in the NBA Finals, Charlton, you don't change that. Steve Kerr is not the guy that's talking in the media. It's the media talking for Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr has not showed his hand. He reminds me of a poker player, and I'd like to sit down and play poker with him sometimes.
Yeah.
But as a poker player, you keep the same face regardless.
Yeah.
If you got a set in your hand, you just sit there and you play your set. Hopefully you get the full house.
Yeah.
But that's where Steve Kerr is. He has a set. He has Draymond Green, he has Klay Thompson, and he has Steph Curry. That's his set.
Yeah.
He is hoping to get another pair, Charlton, so he ends up with the full house. So he has that unbeatable hand.
Yep.
Toronto is playing by committee. That's how they've gotten here, by committee. Kawhi Leonard is a juggernaut against the Warriors. If you go back 3 years ago, until he sprained his ankle when he was playing in San Antonio, they had Golden State on the road.
Yeah.
Just a few short seasons ago.
Yeah.
So this is a guy, Charlton, that knows how to play against the Golden State Warriors. He played havoc on them during the regular season in the two meetings that they had.
Yeah.
And I don't see him slowing down at all. When you think about what he did in that final game against Milwaukee, 27 points, 17 rebounds, 7 assists.
Yeah.
He's a dominant player. He is going to get his, just like everybody say, Steph Curry's going to get his, Klay Thompson's going to get his. But you got to look at the auxiliary players in Toronto. Van Fleet, who's been lights out, 15 from 18 from 3 since his wife gave birth to their second child.
Yeah.
So he's ecstatic. He has no pressure on him. He is just knocking them down. And so Siakam, I don't see him having the doldrums in this series that he had in the last series. His shot was off a little bit against Milwaukee.
That's right.
But, you look at Kyle Lowry. That's the ace card right there. How is Kyle Lowry going to play? Because he's going to be matched up against Klay Thompson. Can he put enough defense on Klay Thompson, or is Klay going to be able to pull up and shoot over him at any time?
Well, Klay can pull up and shoot over anybody, and I think if you make a football and a basketball analogy, remember a couple of years ago the Dallas Cowboys under Dak Prescott, they were rolling in the NFL, and I think they were 13-2 going into Philadelphia, and Jerry Jones wanted to pay homage to Tony Romo. So he started Romo. Romo had a touchdown pass, but it broke the chemistry of the Cowboys. They started slow in the playoff game. I think they were knocked out by Green Bay because they killed the chemistry that got them there. Like you mentioned, nobody stopped Golden State. They won 6 in a row. They've won 8 of the last 10. There's no problem. So bringing Cousins in, if you're up by 10 and there's 2 minutes left, bring him in, let him get a basket. But you got to dance with the woman who brought you to the dance. Speaking of dancing, I think you've already said that Durant won't play there. There's some rumors he got his house up for sale in Oakland. I
got mine up for sale. Maybe we can do a house swap.
Maybe you say house swap, and I'm sure that's possible to rich people, but got a place in New York. But rich people got a lot of places. But if he does leave, this would be maybe his last chance to ever be in an NBA Finals. You can't take for granted that you're going to leave the best team in the universe and get to another final just because you changed jerseys. Does that make any sense, your thoughts?
Let me give you a perfect analogy on it, Charlton. And it happened at the end of the last NBA season when a trade didn't take place between the Pelicans and the Lakers.
Yes.
Everybody is talking about players going to losing teams.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis is in New Orleans. If he stayed in New Orleans, Charlton, he's aligned to get the max contract where he can get $210, $220 million.
I'll take it.
And so, as the media is constantly talking, well, they want to leave these winning programs and go play for a losing team.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis is trying to get away from a losing organization in New Orleans.
Yeah.
He's giving up money. He's leaving money on the table. He's saying the $210, $220 million max contract doesn't matter. I want to go win championships. I want to at least be in the conversation about the potential of winning a championship. So as the media constantly revels about, Kevin Durant's out of Golden State. They never wanted him around there anyway. Golden State never said that because the owners of Golden State are paying Kevin Durant $30 million a year.
And none of those checks have bounced, right, Big C? I think they've all cleared the bank.
To me, Charlton, that sounds like somebody wants.
Somebody loves you.
They're willingly writing you a $30 million check.
Yeah.
And hey, we want you. Here's $30 million.
Yeah.
And we're going to allow you to win some championships along the way.
Yeah.
And so if I'm Kevin Durant and I'm making $35 million a year
right.
in Golden State, how much, does $10 million more a year anywhere else, Charlton, is it worth it? If it's not bringing you a championship ring, the media is only the people that's talked about Kevin Durant being disgruntled.
Yeah.
I've never heard Kevin Durant come out and say, I'm disgruntled with winning.
No.
I don't like the winning culture.
Right.
I don't want to be here because these guys win
too
damn
much.
I want to go someplace where all they do is lose. They get in the lottery with the ping pong balls and have a chance to get a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
That's not the type of organization, Charlton, any professional athlete wants to be with. And give that a comparison. Let's go football. You did the comparison with football. Look at the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes.
In football. They just had the number 1 draft pick, okay?
Yep.
Kyler Murray. They drafted a quarterback in the first round last year. They traded Josh Rosen to Miami.
Yep.
The Arizona Cardinals, Charlton, in the last 2 seasons, have started 5 quarterbacks. Think about that. They started 5 different quarterbacks. And I know a quarterback will go there that's not playing because he gets a chance to play.
Yes.
But is anybody else lining up saying, I want to be an Arizona Cardinal because they're losing? Or would I rather go play with the Los Angeles Rams because they're winning?
Yep.
They're in the same division.
Yep.
Free agents would choose the Rams over the Cardinals, Charlton, for an opportunity to win.
Yep.
And so when you're looking at the NBA and everybody's saying Kevin Durant is out of here, he doesn't want to be here. He's going to New York. Now, you think about it now, Charlton. They got 3 teams on the ledger where Kevin Durant is going.
Yeah.
And 3 teams other than the Golden State Warriors. If I have an opportunity to be a part of a legacy and be a winner, take Robert Horry. What did Robert Horry do? Robert Horry brokered himself to go to teams where he had a chance to win NBA titles.
Yeah.
He was a hired gun in the NBA. San Antonio, Houston, Los Angeles. He marketed himself to win 7 NBA titles, Charlton. 7 NBA titles. Got paid along the way everywhere he went.
Yep.
But he won 7 NBA titles. Kevin Durant has a chance to be a part of history, to win 3 consecutive titles this year, Charlton. You know, that hasn't been done since the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
The 3 teams. Okay? And if he stays there, Charlton, and they stay healthy, he has an opportunity to do something that only the Boston Celtics have done, Charlton.
Yep.
And to win 4 titles.
And I think
4 consecutive titles. Do I want to win 4 consecutive titles, or do I want to go to New York and make an extra $10 million in salary, where if I got 4 titles, Charlton, I can make an extra $100 million in endorsements?
That's a lot of endorsement money. It's a lot of money. I mean, how much money do you need? If a bubble gum costs $1, walking to the store with $100 million, I mean, you could probably not worry about how much it costs. I mean, he has that kind of money. What I want to do is come up on what we call the Big C pause. And we'll talk about some more things because I'm so excited about this finals. I'm excited about it not only with seeing if the Blues can tip the cup of the Boston Bruins, but seeing what happens also with Golden State and Toronto. We're going to take the Big C pause, and we'll come back in just a moment after this break. All right, we are back on the Big C Sports Show after the Big C pause, and I'm just excited about what's going on with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. You can find us on the Apple Podcast, on Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Xfinity Comcast. If you also have that device in your home called Alexa, you can say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast, and it will come up, the Big C Sports Show. So we thank all of our sponsors for their support. And I'm telling you about this game that's going to happen in Toronto. The city is really putting on their best furniture, their best silverware for this event. It's really a seminal moment in Canada. They've been around about 25 years now. It may take another 25 years to get back because Kawhi's going to most likely be out of there at the end of this year. But give me your feeling on something that when we see dynasties, and you talked about Robert Big Shot Horry finding a way to sign with teams that wanted to win. If Golden State has any type of change in their structure, give me players that they cannot afford to lose, no matter what people on the outside are saying. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you talk about players that they can't afford to lose, I mean, it's like the Blues Brothers. You got to keep the band together.
Yeah.
You got to keep together the nucleus of that organization that started the winning ways, Charlton. I don't see that going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, but even if they were to lose a player, Kevin Durant, if he was to go, you think there wouldn't be a long line of free agents that would not want to come to Golden State, Charlton?
That's right.
Every free agent out there is like, I'm up.
Yeah.
I mean, Kawhi Leonard's a free agent. Everybody says he's leaving Toronto.
Yeah.
Kawhi hasn't said a word about what he's going to do. Kawhi has always owned a home in Los Angeles. Yes, he's from Los Angeles. Many professional athletes in America, Charlton, do not play in the cities where they grew up.
Yeah.
There's not one person on the Oakland Warriors that grew up in Oakland.
Right.
So how can you be disgruntled? Kevin Durant grew up in Washington, D.C. I haven't heard one word about him wanting to go to Washington, D.C. and play, although there was a lot of talk when he was leaving Golden State. I mean, not Golden State, but Oklahoma City.
Right.
Oh, he's going to go back to Washington and play.
Yeah.
Where's all the guys that were right on that analogy?
They changed.
They changed, constantly.
And
everybody had him going home to Washington, D.C. when he left Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Yeah.
He went as far from Washington as he could. He went all the way to the left coast out there, Charlton.
Yeah.
So as everybody wants to speculate about who can be lost and who cannot be lost, to understand about professional sports, guys take their jobs seriously.
Yeah.
Guys take winning seriously on every level of professional sports. You talked about the NHL playoffs with the Bruins and the Blues.
Yeah.
Those two organizations take winning seriously, Charlton.
Yep.
They're not there just to make a paycheck, even though the money nowadays in professional sports is great.
Yep.
But that ring, that signification of being the best is what everybody strives for. It's like even now in the media, everybody's cankering on, well, Steph has never won the finals MVP. Does that lessen his career? Does that make him less of a superstar because he's never won a finals MVP? And then they start naming off players who have won the finals MVP. There are so many great players in the history of this game, Charlton, that have not won the finals MVP, that hoist the ring. There were significant parts of those teams winning the championship. Think about the number of stars who've never won championships in every professional sport. Hockey, baseball, basketball, football. They would love to have a ring over the finals MVP. That's not the signature moment of the career. Steph has 2 regular season MVPs back-to-back, the only unanimous choice MVP in NBA history. The only. No other player with a finals MVP can say that, Charlton.
Yeah, and I think that's so powerful. I don't know anyone who wants to go to a losing organization. I watched this program. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'll say it. It's called The Bachelor. I don't know why they don't have mononucleosis commercials for The Bachelor, Big C. It's about a woman that kisses like 50 different men. Everything that make a dad happy, right? It's a shame, but I still watch it. And this woman, no matter who she is, she's always hoping that this guy's her knight in shining armor. But if you kiss 50 men, you might find one here, like Big C. At the same time,
Princess and the Frog.
Yes, Princess and the Frog. But if you already have your Prince Charming, which is an infinity stone, those rings that the Golden State Warriors have, you're most likely to keep them and not be like the Bachelor or the Bachelorette going around trying to find the right team or the right person to kiss. I hope it might be a dumb analogy, but I think people with championship rings, they understand what I'm saying. But even when you talk about basketball, would you believe everybody says they want to go from high school to the NBA, from high school to the whatever pro league, baseball, NFL? There have been at least 7 college underclassmen that have withdrawn their name from the NBA draft, and they will be returning back to school to continue their education and playing college basketball. Big C, I think that's a smart thing. Your thoughts?
It's the most intelligent move, Charlton, they've done in the last 2 years, is to withdraw their name from the NBA draft pool. Because as you do the math, Charlton, and start looking at it, there's only 60 players that are going to be drafted.
Yeah.
And everybody gets this bad advice. Oh, yeah, you're a surefire pick.
Well, you're going to go in the first round. Yeah.
But as they start doing this evaluation and they go to these NBA combines, Charlton, the smart thing was not to sign with an agent, which allows you to keep your college eligibility.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing. If you're going to get drafted, you don't need an agent to get drafted. You're already slotted to where you're going to go. So all these players who sign with these agents and immediately void their college eligibility was very stupid, because they think an agent tossing them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to go buy a necklace and a watch, Charlton, is the be-all to end-all.
Right.
And that's all the agent wants to do. The agent wants to own you. So the thing what the NCAA needs to do, as well as the NBA, is that a player is not allowed to sign with an agent prior to the draft.
Yeah.
You cannot sign prior to the draft. So whether a player gets drafted or not, he still has the opportunity to go back to college.
Yeah.
And I think as the NBA is talking about they want to eliminate the one and done and go back to where a player can go right into the league, I think that the NBA needs to set up a rule that if you have signed with an agent and you're underclassmen, that you're ineligible to be drafted.
Yeah.
That would stop all of this with these agents going out exploiting these young men, saying that I'm going to do all this for you. No, it's the teams that do it all for you. The agent is only a fiduciary part of it after the fact.
Yeah.
Because if you're not drafted, that agent is not going to get you on that NBA team, Charlton, whether it's an NBA team or an NFL team. It comes down. We just saw the NFL draft. There were players that were sitting there hoping to be drafted.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they didn't get drafted. It's the team calling them, said, would you like to sign with us as a free agent? Not the agent calling, saying, would you like to sign with this team as a free agent?
That's true. I think Jake Browning out of the University of Washington, he was a high school All-American. They were saying he's up for the Heisman Trophy under Chris Peterson for the Huskies. But people saw that he collapsed if you blitz him, he collapsed. I saw that in high school when they played against De La Salle out of Concord, the Bay Area. He put a lot of pressure on him, he collapsed, and that's what a lot of NFL scouts saw. But people, I mean, if you have a dream, go for it. That's important. When you think about something that I want to bring up, Big C, because we talk about race and we talk about politics, religion, it's just real talk. We're not scripted. There's a $1 million purse to the winning golfer in this weekend's Women's U.S. Open in Charleston, South Carolina. The largest win or checked in a women's major championship history is $500,000 additional was raised for the men's purse, $12.5 million. Pebble Beach women's $5.5 million. Now, that's a great statement about how much money they can make. But even with that and said, give me your feeling why it's so different between men and women, your thoughts. The hole's the same size.
Well, it is, but you look at the growth of the women's game. You know, the women's, just like the WNBA and the NBA.
Yeah.
Are they marketed the same? No, because the women don't shoot the ball from the distance like the men do. They don't dunk with regularity like the men do.
Yeah.
So it's hard to build a highlight show off of it. When you look at the LPGA, Charlton, the women's golf tour, it has never been marketed on the scale. They've never had a Masters.
No.
You know, where everybody wanted to be from around the world, Charlton. They've always been that little sisters event. But the money share now, Charlton, has greatly increased on the women's side of the sport, which is great.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of women out there that play. And you have these young ladies that aspire to be professional golfers, Charlton. And when there's incentive, you get people to follow. It's like the Tiger syndrome.
Yeah.
When Tiger became captive, you know, in the world of golf, Charlton, everybody wanted to play golf because everybody said, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yep.
If a minority can dominate this sport that they've been void from for decades and not allowed to participate, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're getting now on the women's side, Charlton. You'll have a lot more young ladies participating because they see the financial revenue that they can earn from being a top-flight golfer in the world.
Well, let me get your thoughts on something, because we don't just advocate for people of color, even though I do advocate, especially for African Americans, because I am one. And someone I heard, a well-known talk show host, that was saying, why would people be upset about LeBron James' agent, who's African American? We know it's an oligarchy of power when it comes to sports agents. I know many sports agents in the business, but it's an oligarchy of power. And they don't like being upset by having a different skin tone come in there and start getting some of their money. But I want to ask you something about golf. Michelle Wie, she blasted Hank Haney over some comments he made about South Korean golfers. And, you know, he hasn't been admonished at the time. I don't know what's going on now. But do you feel... See, when black men say, well, there's racism or discrimination, sometimes people say, oh, there you go again with that garbage. And they don't want to hear it. But now you have a person, Korean background, and then you have the gentleman like Hank Haney, and they're making some stupid statements that I don't want to repeat. And there's really no pushback from the golfing community as much. I mean, there might be soon. But do you feel that it's just good old boys behavior and complaining it will fall on deaf ears, or should they keep pushing for that social consciousness? I don't think it's going to cost a job. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, who should be the first and foremost person to speak out against negativity like that? Jim Nance. Jim Nance has been the voice of golf, Charlton, for the past decade.
Yeah.
He has handled all the major golf events. And here's a guy who will not speak out negatively about Jim Haney making these negative comments about minority women or
Hank
just
Haney.
women in general.
Hank Haney,
so
yes.
when you have the major voices of a sport from an analogies perspective, not saying anything negative about their compadres who speak negative light, whether it's racist or sexist, Charlton, you'll never have any backlash.
What is it, and you've worked around, and I worked around a lot of people. The guy that got me in the business, Caucasian man, he's passed on since. And Tom Kelly, he was a USC football broadcaster over 40 years. And I know he was fair to me. In fact, he asked me if I wanted to get in the business. And from there, got some opportunities. He was Caucasian. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who are decent people. But I always like to ask my white brethren, especially the ones that talk about God and they go to church, etc., if they really wanted to wipe out racism, they could do it because they would not put up with it. It's a lot like, whether it's Jim Nance a couple of years ago, even Jim Nance was caught off the air saying, I'm tired of this garbage, when black men were taking a knee because they wanted to bring attention to social, some consciousness. They wanted some social consciousness to come, and it just wasn't happening. And it was Jim Nance's voice that was caught when he thought the microphone was off. So it was an irritant for him too. But if white men really wanted to change that garbage, they could. Why don't they want to? Your thoughts?
Well, they don't, Charlton, because you don't want to upset the apple cart. And you've gotten to where you are because there is a separation in society and in structure. When you limit your competition, Charlton, you don't give them opportunity, then there's never a threat to your position. And that's how people viewed Tiger. He was a threat to golf, Charlton, because he was dominant and the world gravitated to him. Yeah. There was not a white golfer on the top of the world anymore after Tiger took that pedestal, Charlton, what had been a signature sport for white society.
Yeah.
When you look at football, Charlton, this is one of the reasons there's always been drawback against black quarterbacks in the NFL, because they said this is a position that requires intelligence and to be damn near a savant in doing it. So blacks, they could not handle that position, as well as the offensive center and middle linebackers. Those thoughts and positions have been changed, Charlton. Minority players have dominated in every sport. When you look at the NBA and the popularity of the NBA, you don't see them talk about white superstars anymore. But if there's anything, Charlton, they not just they talk about the African-American players, but they find the negative things to hone on the African-American players, where they want to leave. They're not happy in this situation. Nobody has said Gordon Hayward was unhappy in Boston, even though he's been unsuccessful since leaving there for the last 2 years from Utah.
Yeah.
No one says he's disenchanted and he's looking to get out on the free agent market, or Boston's trying to trade him.
Yeah.
But, when you look at these broadcasters, and they don't speak negative about their brethren in the industry, Charlton, because they look in the mirror. And that guy that they would be backlashing and lambasting looks like them. They're not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we can find room for just decency. Maybe I'm Pollyannish. I know it's a whimsical suggestion, but I think great examples of men in our society, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the late Billy Graham, because Billy Graham helped get Dr. King out of jail for marching for equality. That same stuff that Jim Nance said he's tired of that display of asking for equality. He said it when the microphone was off. But he's always positioned in society as a fair man, an egalitarian. But we know sometimes when the microphone's off, people say what they say. Or when you're in someone's presence, they're nice and shaking your hand. But they become bigotry. Bigotry is like easy for them because they're used to it. Their parents taught them to be a bigot. And they know who I'm talking to. But they don't do it in front of your face because they're cowards. But they'll do it behind your back. But I feel for Michelle Wee and what she said, because I know what she's talking about. But I just want to say to her, the only way you change it is you got to talk about it. It won't go away on its own. Big C, it's now 100 days away from September 5th, 2019. The Green Bay Packers will play the Chicago Bears. The season opener, 150th NFL season. I know we still have the NBA Finals, but is there any sport like the NFL that can make you glued to the TV? The Oakland Raiders bring in Richie Incognito, a known bigot, okay? But it hasn't stopped him from getting a job in the league. And the Raiders GM, Mayock, says, well, we've talked to enough people, and we feel that he's going to do things our way. So he's espousing bigotry's okay, part of the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. And I know they keep making excuses for people who have white skin privilege. As a GM to say a guy that's a bigot's okay, the 49ers just did it with Bosa down in San Francisco. And the Bay Area is a progressive part of the country. So when Michelle Wie is upset that someone is xenophobic or racist or bigoted, most of these people who say it's okay are white men. Billy Graham was also a white man. He denounced that type of behavior. So I know there's still hope for people who read. Big C, give me your thoughts on why the NFL is so popular. Colin Kaepernick can't get a job. Richie Incognito and Nick Bosa, they're gainfully employed. Your thoughts?
Well, let's go to the incognito scenario and Mike Mayock, the general manager of Oakland Raiders. I guess he's not abreast of the climate of the Bay Area. If he goes back to the player that Richie Incognito was bashing 7 years ago, Jonathan Martin.
Stanford.
He went to school there at Stanford, Charlton, right there in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So he's not aware of the progressive mentality and the education level there at Stanford University, Charlton. And to deal with a player of incognito status, he hasn't played in the NFL in 2 years. So that meant he wasn't on the hot list of anybody. And so this lets you know that Mayock has little bit of ability of evaluating talent when it comes to that, if you're getting guys off the street. And I think Al Davis did that years ago with Lyle Alzado when he brought him back in 4 years after he retired. And, after one preseason game, he said, you can't play and we're going to go with the young guys.
Yeah.
I think this was more of a publicity thing with the Raiders than anything else, is that you looking on the scrap heap and saying these guys are better than anybody else out there. That means your organization is pathetic to start with.
Yep.
So, but when you look at the NFL as a whole, the NFL is just the ultimate sport. It is the ultimate fantasy of every American male, Charlton.
Yeah.
They all think, well, I could play. And I used to hear that all the time when I was active as a player. You be in the gym or anywhere else, guys, I could play. I used to play in high school.
Yeah.
Well, the cheerleaders cheered in high school also.
Right.
They don't cheer in the NFL.
Right.
Because they have standards there also.
Yeah.
So when people get a chance to live out their fantasy vicariously through these athletes, and you think that, everybody can't dunk a basketball.
No.
But everybody can get in a three-point stance. That's what gives people the belief that they could play in the NFL, Charlton. Yeah. And that's why it's so big. Women aspire because they see the bodies of these men and like, wow, I wish my husband looked like that.
Right.
Look how he looks in those tight pants. I mean, when you look at an NFL uniform, actually, Charlton, they brought in women.
Yeah.
To get women's thoughts on how a uniform should look, how the pants should look, how the jersey should conform to the body. Women were the main ideas in the uniforms of the NFL players, Charles.
That's right. And I think even there's a car called the Maserati. It's made in Italy. And they were saying that the women chose the sound. It's voted the sexiest car in the universe. It was done by women. But I still want to get back to what Michelle Wie said about wanting white men to get fired for racism and xenophobia. And it won't happen because they control the business. But what you can do is be an advocate for your own people by letting people know who the bigot is. I mean, that's important because oftentimes people can't atone unless you're looking for a job in the NFL. I want to bring up something before we close, and I know the NFL is popular, and I love it. And some people say, well, if you love equality, how can you support that league that won't give a black man a job, but it'll hire racist white guys, known racist white guys? And I say in order to change anything, you got to be a part of it. You change it from the inside. Former NFL fullback Jamil Cook, he was convicted of stealing $105,000, the Gene Upshaw NFL Players Health Reimbursement Account Plan. Now, how you steal money from an account, I mean, it's happened different places. The league still needs to find a way to do something about players once they retire. Maybe he was looking for a way to pay for some health care. I mean, I don't know. But I know it is a league that leaves players out and dry. That make any sense? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, the NFL has turned its back on retired players for decades, Charlton. You have to understand, as a former NFL player, you only entitled to health insurance for the first 5 years that you retired.
Yeah.
After that, you're on your own. And the way insurance companies were structured until the Affordable Care Act, you had pre-existing conditions, Charlton, because you were a former football player. So insurance companies would not insure you. If they did insure you, the premiums were at a point where you could not afford them.
Yep.
So, and when you talk about 105,000 from an NFL, organization, Charlton.
Yeah.
105,000. The average player in the NFL makes that a game, more than that a game.
Yeah.
So how can you sit there and say that a former player that's getting 105,000 is stealing? That's not stealing. You stole from him for years. You should be gladly to give him that kind of money for his health care.
Yeah, they should. And speaking of something else, because players can take what's called they can test positive for a substance, right? Well, there's a UFC fighter named Yoel Romero. He was awarded $27 million in a supplement lawsuit because he said that his disqualification and his fine came from a tainted sample. Now, that opens up a red herring, because if anyone can say their sample that tested positive for whatever is tainted, and they can go to court, and as you said before, it's about finding the right jury. It's not about being innocent or guilty. It's about what's the disposition of your jury. If you're a Caucasian person and you have a white jury, chances are you're going to get some favor. If you're a person of color and you have a white jury, chances are they're going to find something. They're going to say, well, maybe we can't prove it, but I know he did something, and they'll find him guilty. I think that's a big win for everyone in the UFC. In order for guys to get kicked in the head, choked out, rear naked choke, all the garbage that they go through, and they got to do something. I've looked them in the eyes before they step into the octagon. I'm going, how in the world that guy going to fight? He can't even respond to hello, Joe. So is that a good thing or a bad thing that you can sue people? If you have the right jury, you can win even if you're guilty? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, most leagues have been judge and jurors when it comes to sampling. We see Ben Watson, who's just going to get a 4-game suspension. He had retired, and then the New England Patriots decided to sign him. So he was doing things to his body, Charlton, post-playing.
Yeah.
He didn't plan on playing. He had retired. But now that he's come back and his body's tested positive, Charlton, for some whatever banned substance that the league was banning.
Yeah.
And there's so many banned substances out there, Charlton. And you can mix things and they will, culminate to make a banned substance when you're taking things into your body. So, I mean, there's been so many different scenarios about players taking, not taking accusations, Charlton.
Yep.
And now that you can bring a private court into a public court, Charlton, instead of just the league's commissioners or whatever, they're sanctioning bodies. This may give a different outlook on players as far as suspensions from now on.
I think it's a good and bad thing depending on what side of the table you're on. But I think for that fighter to get $27 million, he wouldn't have made $27 million in his lifetime. But you get caught doing something that you probably did. Chances are you did it. But they're saying you didn't do it. A lot like Robert Kraft, I think, is a new generation in the court system. Tonight's Major League Baseball schedule is hot, and you can find out more about sports and real talk, whether it's politics or entertainment, on Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday on the iHeartRadio network, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Speaker. You can find us on YouTube, also Comcast Xfinity. And you can find us, if you have that app in your home called Alexa, just say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast, and it will come up. I also want to, before we get into the Major League Baseball schedule, I just want to say one more time to people who are out there, if you have any military veterans in your family, there's an 800 hotline you can call and get them help. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. And get some people some help, because they really do need it. And all it takes is the chance to reach out and call somebody and let them know that their help is on the way. Big C, tonight's Major League Baseball schedule, the LA's at Oakland. The A's have their 10-game winning streak snapped. So congratulations for the Angels. Texas at Seattle. Cleveland is at Boston. Detroit is at Baltimore. St. Louis at Philadelphia. Toronto's at Tampa Bay. San Francisco's at Miami. Washington at Atlanta. You have Chicago at Houston. Kansas City's at Chicago. Arizona Diamondbacks at Colorado. The New York Mets at the LA Dodgers. And then some matchup games. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. And San Diego at New York. Big C, your thoughts? Major League Baseball, can it really stand up against NHL tonight and NBA basketball tomorrow night? Your thoughts, Big C?
Baseball is always big in the markets, Charlton, that don't have a competitive sport that's participating. But, the games with Boston playing, Charlton, and St. Louis playing, they take a back seat in those cities, Charlton, because of the NHL Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, and I like to see a great series between these two teams competing, Charlton, for Lord Stanley's Cup.
Yep, me too. I would love to see that. It probably won't happen. But what can happen is when you understand history, you understand who Drew Boudini Brown was. He was a great motivator for the great Muhammad Ali, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm not going to lose this glass that's in my hand tonight. I'm getting ready to go fill it up with ice. I'm going to sit down and watch the Bruins and the Blues, and I'm going to, sip my blues away tonight.
Well, sip your blues away, but don't fall on the ice, Big C. Don't fall on the ice every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone, call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.